Many women today find themselves forced to make major life changes, but not all of them decide to become milkmaids. Sue Spagnuolo found herself single with 2 grown daughters in a career as a horsewoman that was becoming too physically demanding. What could she do to make a living and still keep her small farm outside St. John's, Michigan?
I've been working with MSU Product Center for the past couple years, and I actually started on another project I wanted to do. I wanted to cater, and I wanted to move a little old church down the road here, and I needed a special use permit. After working on that about a year and realizing that wasn't going to happen due to county restrictions, I went back to MSU Product Center and, we discussed what can I do, what is in need here. And at one point, at one of the meetings, there's a handful, 2 or 3 farmstead goat cheese producers in Michigan, and MSU Product Center said, I need goat cheese.
I had been working with a group of goat cheese, artisan farmstead goat cheese producers in the state who were doing really well. There seemed to be a great demand and a great need, and the prices were good, and it seemed to me that it fitted very well into Sue's philosophy of what she wanted to try and achieve on this farm. And we really started to explore this idea of putting up a goat cheese operation on her farm. And she loved it, being an Italian lady full of passion and wonderful cooking. Decided that this is what she wanted to do. So the Product Center really helped her work through all the rules and regulations and putting it together and where the resources were in order to find, the equipment and the goats and the vats and the you name it and all this together. And then do the packaging and the labeling and she makes a wonderful cheese, and she's been up and running now, I think, for about 3 months and sells out every week at the farmers market in Okemos.
Sue brings her family's old world values to her new role as milkmaid and goat cheese producer.
My father was first generation here, and when I was young, there were times I remember when I was a young teenager, I was like, my family's so hick, so backwards, so rural. When they came over here from the old country, they really did not become Americanized very well. I find the older I get, and I'm sure it's true with everybody, there are some things there that I have that not many people have experienced. And now people are yearning for that. And I'm like, well, boy, we did this. And even my daughters at their young, in the early 20s, have experienced things that a lot of people haven't. I was very fortunate that I had my grandparents for a long time. My daughters got to know their great-grandparents. So, boy, they got to experience some things that I take for granted that a lot of people don't have. And especially women need to know that there is a value in humanity. There's a value in taking care of, and there's a value of producing to take care of people, whether it's food or clothing or whatever kind of service. Things that I think have been looked down on or pushed aside for so long, there's value in it, and people need it. And I really believe that helps, in its own way, keep family together.
How did Sue find the courage to start her business in such tough times?
I did a lot of praying. And I stepped out of my box, and I really thought seriously, because I agree, the timing was horrible. Do I dare do this now? And when I finally committed to it full-heartedly last fall, after I committed, the bottom went out of everything. Our retirement, plans, cost, fuel, how am I going to do this? And I gave it to God. And I said, I believe this is what I'm supposed to do. And if this is meant to be, it will happen. If not, then you'll pick me up and get me on my feet again somehow. So I took a huge leap of faith. I stepped outside my box. And I also had great stories from my past. My grandparents lived through the Depression, and the stories that I was raised with, what they did to take care of their family. I thought, my grandpa started a little business. Another grandpa traveled with his produce. They survived with hard work. And it's kind of funny because when I was younger, I was raised with, if you're not working, you better be eating or sleeping. And that has stuck with me. So I was determined to give it a couple years and put the best product out there that I can and see what happens. And so far I've been very blessed and very happy with the response.
Sue sells her soft goat cheese called chevre at farmers markets and some supermarkets in the area. She offers 3 flavors: plain, fire-roasted pepper, and a maple cinnamon variety that features maple syrup right there from the Maple River watershed where she lives.
To pasteurize milk, we have to take it to 145 degrees for a half hour. And then we cool it down, and then we add our culture at a certain temperature, cool it down some more, add the rennet, and then it sits for 12 to 14 hours. And I'm going to hand ladle out that curd, which will be our cheese. The one thing I've really learned, the gentler you are with this milk, the creamier texture you get, and that's what you want in a chevre. And that's one thing about farmstead cheese. It's milked right over there. I carry it over here and pour it in here. So it's all hand ladled. It's not sloshed around in a big tanker truck, because when that happens, that breaks down the proteins and the fat. So it will be different texture, different flavor. So the gentler we are with it, the nicer the cheese. I have 3 breeds here. I have Spaniels, which are the white goats. I have Alpines, and I have La Manchas, which are the earless goats. The reason I chose those breeds for several factors, but there's been several studies done in southern Italy, actually, where by different colleges and universities, and reports where different breeds combined could make a nice milk, where maybe one breed milk is known for one characteristic, another breed's milk may be known for another characteristic. I can control that a bit by what they eat and their health and the cleanliness, but some breeds have different characteristics. So I am thinking and experimenting with using these different breeds and seeing what kind of milk I get, hence what it does to the cheese.
Sue recognizes that customers value her cheese because they also know she takes good care of her animals and the land.
I have not had any animal health issues, knock on wood, so far, and that is why I have a 16-year-old dog and 20-something-year-old horses, and I just am very adamant on taking care of these animals. And like I said, I would rather have a doe milk 7, 8, 9 years a little bit instead of pushing them hard. I've never believed in pushing. I've never believed in paternity horses and pushing horses hard when they're young, and the thing is, I've been on the other end of it where they're getting fixed or put down because we've pushed them too hard. You can do that in the dairy industry also. So I would rather not push them and let them live comfortably, and as long as they're honest and fair to me, I'll be honest and fair to them. I have 15.6 acres. And it's not flat. There is woodlots on there. And that's another thing that caught my attention, because I know about goats are browsers. They are not grazers like cattle and horses. And if you think about in the wild, they're up in the mountains living on, very thin stuff. They're not used to lush alfalfa ground, which I don't have here. I'm on sand. And so it's hard to make a very lush pasture. Well, eventually, they will be out in these woodlots, and they will be a great livestock for this type of ground, because they won't ruin it. They won't be hard on it. They'll eat things that horses and cattle don't eat. It just is really a good fit. The more and more I read about it and talked to producers, I'm thinking, this type of ground is conducive to this type of animal. If I can produce an animal and a product that is environmentally safe and sound and friendly to this type of ground, I just think that's wonderful.
Sue's land is certified by the Michigan Agriculture Environmental Assurance Program. She has also applied for a grant from the Natural Resources Conservation Service. The grant will focus on water use on the farm, from surface runoff to recycling the water used to process the cheese to water her goats.
I am meat verified, which I'm very excited about, with the help of my MSU Extension, great people, to become meat verified. There are people who are aware that is a program through MDA that lets them know that I'm concerned about the environment and that I can, to the best of my ability, keep things as clean and keep things as natural as possible. And there are, even as small as I am, compared to a large farm, there are lots of things I can do to help that, and that's important to me, and I'm glad that people appreciate that and take that into account.
Future plans may include adding a goat dairy.
The protein in the goat milk is different than cow milk, and the protein chains are shorter, so they are more digestible. And they are different enough, they are not as hard to break down. So before soy products came out and these other canned products came out, doctors would put babies or elderly or sick people or people with ulcers on goat milk. And it's amazing to hear the stories that people who are lactose intolerant or have allergies or digestive problems, ulcers or surgery, or just upset stomachs can't handle cow milk, can handle goat milk. Goat milk is the most universally used milk, from humans to wildlife rehabs to zoos, because out of all the milks produced by all the mammals, goat milk can be used by most species overall.
Another market Sue is considering is selling goat meat when her animals' productive lives are over.
There is a huge market for goat meat. I read this spring that Detroit ships in over 3 million pounds of goat meat a year. And I know of a couple producers in mid-Michigan who have boar goats, who are the meat goats. I don't know if that market's been tapped into in Michigan. I don't know if it's a matter of supply. I don't know if it's a matter of locale. These goats are not as meaty, of course, as a boar goat, but they certainly could be used for meat.
Yet, at the end of the day, this isn't about money and profits as much as it is a mission.
I need to do something with this, and again, I talked to God about it. I'm supposed to do something with this. I don't quite know what yet, but I have a passion for women who have been in my situation, you know, when you're in your midlife and you become single again and you don't know what to do, and it can be very scary, and unfortunately it happens a lot. And when you've given your life to your family and then you're forced out into the work world or to taking care of yourself again, it can be very daunting. And as hard as it can be, you can grow. And I somehow, this is going to let me help, because I really believe in service and I believe in helping other people, and through school and church and 4-H and other functions, I really enjoy that, and I truly believe that that's one reason why we're here. So I have some ideas, and I'm just thinking that, you know, there are a lot of women out there that have been in my position that need help and need confidence and need to know that, yes, they can do it, because it is a passion, because otherwise you wouldn't make it. You couldn't do it. But sometimes when you're in that position, you need confidence to be made, and you need to know that, yes, you can do this, and you can conquer the obstacles, and you may not have a clue. You may wander around for a year or wonder, what am I going to do, or how am I going to do this? But if you search, you can find that out.